Hi, my name is Christian Taylor, and I'm going to be discussing the Housing First model, which is a proposed solution to curtailing the recent rise in the homeless population. My purpose in conducting this speech is to persuade you that the Housing First model is a beneficial model for curtailing the increasing rate of homelessness in our society and for preventing those formerly homeless from ending up back on the streets. Throughout history, many societies have devised numerous so-called solutions to homelessness. Some of these solutions were bad, and some were not as bad. But perhaps one of the most promising of these models, in terms of getting the homeless off the street, has been the Housing First model. Ultimately, the Housing First model possesses the ability to soar far above the other models because it acknowledges some of the most basic human needs of the individual, namely, a stable place to refer to as home. I'm willing to argue that the Housing First model is one of the most beneficial approaches to reducing homelessness because it provides a stable environment for the individual, easier access to services, and is very cost efficient. Now, to fully understand this model, we must first go back into the model's history, which can be traced all the way back to the Depression era of the 1930s, with FDR's New Deal, in which he commissioned large building projects of cheap and affordable housing. This lasted up into World War II almost, and ended with the start of the Cold War and the Red Scare. Of course, though the housing stopped being built, that doesn't mean that these housing services were not happening. Mental institutions took up the project of offering places for the homeless, and services such as health and help getting a job, help living on their own, and help finding suitable housing if that was what they needed. Now, once the mental institutions were closed down in the late 1960s, early 1970s, there was really no place for the homeless to go. So homeless shelters, stuff like that, started implementing what was called the staircase solution, in which the homeless had to apply and meet certain criteria before they could be considered for housing. And even when they were considered for housing, it still was a long, dreary, hard process before they would probably get into housing, if they got into housing. Now, this lasted up until the early 1990s, and it's still around today for mostly. But in 1992, Dr. Sam Tsembris devised what was called the Housing First model based off what he had observed throughout history in the 1930s and the 1950s into the 60s with the mental institutions. Now, my first reason for supporting this model is that it provides the individual with a stable, supportive housing environment. This stable, supportive housing environment serves as a base to get back on their feet, in which they are provided services and help finding work. And they're also taught how to live on their own. Secondly, the model provides easy access to services and that the individual is in one place and they are more likely to utilize the services if they are sheltered. Lastly, research has shown the Housing First model to be surprisingly inexpensive as it eliminates the need to constantly track down the homeless, and research has also shown that those in housing are less likely to commit crimes and use emergency services such as emergency room visits less frequently. Now, there are a number of homeless solutions out there similar to the Housing First model. What makes the Housing First model unique from all the rest is its emphasis on the humanness of the individual by providing them with a place to call home first and foremost. Ultimately, the Housing First model sits among some of the best models ever drawn up simply because it addresses the homeless person's need for a home immediately. Thank you.